This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm so excited to be speaking with Jennifer Esposito about Fresh Kills. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thanks for speaking with me.
Of course. Can you tell me where you first realized you wanted to do this film?
When I was being chased by the mafia girls that I lived with when I was a kid. Now, this has been a long, long journey with this movie. Um, it did really come to mind when I was a kid, living in a neighborhood that was heavily, um, I was surrounded by a lot of mafia families, and the young girls were in my environment. So I'm a really big why person. So I kept saying to myself like, why are they so angry? Because I saw a lot of violence and especially from the girls more so than the boys, and it just stayed with me. And so it's been something that I needed to understand. And as I got older, their anger started to really become something that I understood more personally, because to me it felt like it was from being pushed into or born into a slot that they were never getting out of. And I felt that way for myself for a few different reasons, and I just needed to tell it. So it started way back when I started writing it on and off for like 15 years. And then around 6 years ago, I said, no, I have to do this, and didn't stop until I did it.
Or would you say that other mob movies or shows get wrong about this world?
Not seeing the women at all, at all. Like even the best of the best, with these films, you really don't see a correct portrayal of the women. And I just thought, not only being female, but being Italian American and seeing, some of these women, they have thoughts, they have things they'd like to say, they have dreams, they are people. They're not just in the kitchen, making dinner or on a pole behind, Tony Soprano. They actually have lives.
Do you have any concern for your own safety in making this film that if it was too accurate, people might not be happy with that?
Um, no, I mean the risk comes from really more less mafia, more Hollywood. And like it's like, stepping into a very masculine genre and showing this beloved genre in a different way, I thought would be really something that people be like, wow. And many are, but I don't think the industry was ready for a female to step into this genre. I'm the first female in this genre to direct uh, uh, this this kind of film, and also to write about this from a female's perspective. And I don't know if that was something that was anyone was ready for.
Who were your biggest supporters along the way in order to get this made?
My God. The people around me, like really close, like three, four people around me, really close. But I tell you, you really find out who your friends are and who your supporters are when you're going to tackle something this big. People like the role that you already play in their life, and when you start to change and grow, and it messes up the system. So, staying in a box, so to speak, whether it be in the industry or around your friends and family, people don't like when that gets, dismantled. So, yeah, you really find out who and what's around you, and also who and what you're made out of. And I knew I was strong, but I didn't realize how much, because this was a extremely difficult process. So it's many times I was like the only hands clapping, like, you come on, you keep doing this, you can keep going, when it definitely got really lonely. So yeah, and of course I had a few great producers.
What advice would you give to aspiring female filmmakers who want to tell their own, untold stories?
Um, you know, they really have to want to tell the story. It has to be a have to, like you have to. Otherwise, there's so much thrown against you. Being female, if you're first time, like there's so much thrown against you that you have to tell this. You must have to tell the story, and then you have to put blinders on and just go. You must go forward, but do not look left to right. Just go forward. Put the goal out in front of you and just focus on the goal every day. And I said to myself, and I'll say it to them, every day, take one step. Do not look at like, oh, all the things that can go wrong, all the things you need to do. Put the goal out in front. The goal is to make this movie. Okay, today, what can I do today? What's the one thing I can do today? Tomorrow, what's the one thing I can do tomorrow? Like, you have to take it piece by piece by piece. And every day, somehow you're going to push it forward. And that's what I did.
A lot of first-time filmmakers transitioning from acting don't cast themselves in their own projects. Did you know always that you wanted to play this part?
I originally was writing this for me to play Rose. And then that didn't happen. And then I wanted to play Connie, and then that didn't happen. And it was like, well, you better hurry up because there's no grandmother in this film. So, but honestly, to me, Francine was based on someone that I knew or know. And I really thought it was just easier for me to do it because the intricacies of this person to be your best friend and your worst enemy in the same sentence, in the same second, is so complex that it was like, I don't have a ton of time on set. I just know someone showing up knows what they're doing in the story, and that's me. So let's just go. And it was just easier that way. It just was.
Was it a challenge to cast the other parts, or did you already have people in mind for some of them?
No, it was absolutely a challenge. It was definitely a challenge because these weren't, we had a lot of great actors coming in through casting but these were such complex roles, and you can't really act that kind of depth and that kind of rage, especially with the Connie character that Odessa Zion played so brilliantly, and Emily Bader, the poignant and power in her silence. These were not easy roles. And yeah, I definitely searched for them.
Plans to direct again?
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to be a filmmaker and go to NYU. I couldn't afford to. But now that I know, especially know that I was able to do this literally on my own, then yeah, I will be doing it again for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as I knew I'd be speaking to you, I wanted to ask you about some of your earlier acting roles where I just thought of you right away. And the first thing I thought of was Samantha Who, which I think is a great show that I would say, I mean, I haven't seen it in however long, but I think it definitely holds up. It's nice to see Christina and certainly Jean, who have gone on to really great things since then. What kind of associations do you have with that series?
Oh, I loved that. That was so much fun. I mean, the cast was a joke. Like you said, Gene and Christina, Melissa McCarthy, and it was incredible. And I laughed the entire time. We had a blast, and we got caught in the strikes back then. That's why we went away, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a blast. Absolute blast. I loved it.
I also know it wasn't a substantial role, but I enjoyed your arc on Rescue Me, which I feel like if you're going to look at something from your career that's pretty close in tone to this movie, I feel like it's a different world, but there's definitely a similar kind of darkness and humor, interwoven in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dennis Leary is great. I loved working with him. I feel like Summer of Sam, my first big film with Spike Lee, is very in the same vein of Fresh Kills. Yeah.
I also had a chance to see Somewhere in Queens a few years ago at the Tribeca Festival. And I thought that, a different kind of family story, a little bit
Yeah,
more pleasant, but also I enjoyed your part, which isn't a member of this extended family, but
right.
instead had to be, I'm sure, an enjoyable role to play.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I was right in the process of doing Fresh Kills, like really still just pushing the rock up the hill to make the film. And knowing that it was Ray's first writing and directorial excuse me, debut, I really wanted to do it to see what it was like because he was obviously the lead. So to see like how he was going about everything, and it was important for me to do.
I know it's also somewhat of a more limited role, but on The Boys, I feel like that is a show that is a crazy universe and also has a crazy fan base. What is it like being part of that entire world?
I mean, I was so early in it, and I knew it was a special show when I read it, and speaking to Eric was really smart take on what he did, and I knew it was gonna blow up, but unfortunately, I wasn't part of like that world. I wish I would have, my head would have stayed on my body, but yeah, it was always supposed to happen that way. So, yeah.
It's hard in that world to survive. The longer
Oh,
you survive, it's like, what are you doing wrong and why are you such a bad person if you've made it this
exactly.
far?
Exactly.
Well, do you have a role from your career that you feel like you wish people would always ask you about, but they don't just because the film didn't land or whatever else, but it really means a lot to you?
Um, Fresh Kills, I often forget I'm in the movie. And I have to be reminded, but it is it's a really important role. I feel like, and it has nothing to do with the acting in it, and or I wrote it. It's just a very important role, I feel, because it's this woman who really wants more for her kids, but does not have the tools. So it's this like very backhanded love, which I think so many people understand from family, from friends, from loved ones. And I think that's why it resonates so much with the people that did see it. There's something for everyone as far as like family scenarios in this movie. But I think Francine, I think people really get, whether they want to or not, they get what is being said with her. And like people just don't always have the tools to love you the way they should. So I do love that role. Yeah. And I loved doing The Affair. I thought that was really great work as well.
It's so interesting with the perspectives too, to the point where you really just don't. The fact that you don't have any one objective truth is so maddening and fascinating at the same time.
Totally. Totally.
Well, this is Awards Buzz, and so we like to highlight great awards-worthy work like Fresh Kills, but we also like to know the people we're talking to, what have you watched lately? Is there a film, a show, or performance that's really sticking with you as particularly memorable?
Um what did I watch recently? I think the most, and it's crazy because it's already last year, but it uh uh Anatomy guys, Anatomy of a Fall was seriously one of my absolute favorite things I've seen in the last couple years. I thought it was just so well done, and the writing and the dialogue and the acting, just all of it was just so well done. So well done. And I was revisiting Succession the other night, and it's just like, ugh, it's just so good. So good. But I'm a pretty tough critic, so when I love something, I like love it. But yeah, I think nowadays it's fewer and far between that we get some really strong work. It's unfortunate, but when you find it, you're like, oh, it's amazing.
I wish you plenty of luck on your next project and look forward to seeing what you do next. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.